afternoon and a warm welcome to the Citizens Chat Show. We're streaming on YouTube on Civic Space TV. I'm your host, Judith Atim. Always a pleasure to have you join us. Our topic today is Uganda decides the cost of election violence. And you've been following what's happening. I'll be giving you highlights of what has happened from the 29th of September when the presidential candidates took off to this very moment. And I'm pleased to be joined by my guest in the studio. From my immediate left, Honorable Henry Banyenzaki, seasoned politician.
Present.
Teacher. You're most welcome.
Senior citizen.
Yes, and a senior citizen, yes. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We also have Dr. Sarah Bireete, Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. A warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, panelists and viewers.
Joining us also is Dr. Robert Ojiambo, Head of the History Department at Kyambongo University. A warm welcome to the show, Dr. Ojiambo.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, colleagues and viewers.
And for the very first time on the Citizens Chat Show, we are pleased to be joined by Mr. Robert Sempala from the Human Rights Network for Journalists. Robert, you're most welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, dear viewers.
And last but not
panelists.
least, retired Major Awich Pollar, Director for External Affairs at the NRM Secretariat and Advocate of the High Court. Most welcome to the show.
Greeting viewers and greetings to my colleagues here.
Okay, so just let's dive in right away. As you all know, the presidential election campaigns officially started on 29th of September. 8 candidates are contesting in the race, but we have 2 clear frontrunners. That's the incumbent, President Yoweri Museveni, and Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, also known as Bobi Wine, of the National Unity Platform Party.
Very popular.
It is. NUP is currently Uganda's principal opposition party. And while the early weeks of the campaign remained relatively calm and peaceful, the process has recently taken a dangerous turn. We've seen an increased deployment of military personnel, which has added a perilous dimension to the civic process. Furthermore, the Uganda Police Force, whose primary mandate is law enforcement and the protection of citizens and property, appears to have also shifted roles, increasingly acting as an aggressor. But also, while security forces often receive the majority of the blame, there have also been instances where supporters' crowds have engaged in acts of aggression against security agencies. Police and military personnel have been pelted with stones, beaten and injured along the campaign trails of some opposition candidates. Also, the rhetoric surrounding the election is another source of tension. We're seeing commentaries including the language and tone used by supporters of the 2 frontrunners, especially on digital platforms, often inflammatory and inciting. Recent rallies have also seen supporters of some, especially Bobi Wine, are brandishing toy guns made of papyrus, reeds, and adopting a gorilla-like demeanor. But in the last few days, we have started counting the human cost of this campaign violence. In less than 2 weeks, 2 lives have so far been claimed. The victims are a 16-year-old boy in Gulu and a 33-year-old businessman in Iganga. Both individuals were attending campaign rallies for Bobi Wine at the time of their deaths. But also beyond the Gulu and Iganga rallies, we have witnessed a sustained brutality that has characterized Bobi Wine's entire campaign trail over the past few weeks. There are also estimates that more than 100 people or supporters of NUP have been arbitrarily arrested and detained across the country, but we don't know the exact number. So our discussion for today, of course, spans issues around security force conduct, supporter aggression or rhetoric, and of course, the constitutional or political context within which we are operating. So our first question to all of you, beyond these tragic headlines that we are seeing, what is the fundamental difference in terms of violence this time around and what we saw in the last election? If I am to start with you.
Oh, wow. Fundamental.
difference in the scale or level of violence that we are witnessing this time around and in the last election?
First of all, I must begin by condemning the brutality that is being ushered, vetted on the citizens in this campaign trail. And we have seen this kind of brutality being the supporters of National Unity Platform. And I have done my inquiries, or call it investigation, when I talk with the people at my level. They are all not happy about it. First of all, I work with Operation Wealth Creation. That is my mainstay of occupation. I work as a director. This is a civil military operation which is mandated, where there is a mix, a blend between civilians, with civilians at our level, at the senior level, and then there are even middle and lower levels, and senior military generals, colonels, brigadiers, all sorts of. We work together very closely, and we have successfully executed our mandate in mobilizing the citizens to fight poverty. I have even been pushing an argument that these kind of elections should be demilitarized, so that we have something similar to OWC, Operational Creation. And then we have civilians, civil, if it is to be an operation by the police, by the military, let the civilians and these armed forces have a round table to see how they can conduct these elections peacefully. And I share this view with some of my seniors. And behind the curtain, I can assure you, there is no senior person in this government that is happy with what we are seeing. Of course, they will not tell you, they will not come on camera sometimes to condemn this kind of brutality. But behind the scenes, they are questioning these people who are commanding this kind of stuff as to why they are doing that. And indeed they should, and we should put it on a hold. We know it very well that in the government sometimes the president is on record to have said that police walimuka wukumi. When the police, they were invaded by these people and they were vetting brutality on the wananchi. I'm glad the president reached a point and took action. And I think even in this case, I think maybe it's because he is very busy with this campaign trail. But if he wins, which he will anyway, I am very sure that them 7, I know, somebody is going to pay the price. Those who are doubting what I'm saying, you go and compare notes with the Kehura, with the Nixonis, Nixon who? Ngasirwe, Chitata. Go and compare notes with them. They are paying. Even right now, I have more or less like a brother, Birunji, who was in CMI. He's now in jail for having fabricated some kind of terrorism acts. And even this government, we know it very well. These guys, they met this kind of violence so that they get justification for operational funds. And this must stop. And of course, and I think my brother Awich from NRM Secretariat is soon going to join me to condemn what's going on. And I'm very happy before we came
Before we started recording.
Before we started recording the show, he gave a testimony on how he has been trying to urge these RDCs who are overzealous that they will not Chaguranyi in their districts. Is it theirs? You find they posted, like I have a brother who's posted in Guru. How can he say that I will not allow Chaguranyi in my district? Is it his? Are these RDCs owning these districts? They are just civil servants. And what is happening is constitutional. And if we didn't want elections as NRM, we are the ones who are in the government, then why do we have this kind, why do we put an environment for campaigning? So these overzealous guys and these goons who are hiding in the camouflaging in our uniform, they must stop. They must stop. What they are doing is wrong. We condemn it. And I want to tell them that they are being watched, not being only watched by the citizens, they're even being watched by their seniors. The commander-in-chief is watching you. President Museveni is watching you. Go and ask my brother Kihura. Compare notes with him. Compare notes with Agasigwe. Compare notes with Kitata, who thought he's Alpha and Omega. Compare notes. They are there. They are paying the price for the sin they did. Let them think that they are not being watched. They must stop. We want a peaceful elections. We want whoever wins, who is definitely going to be President Museveni, to win in peace. We want continuity. We want the development. We want a good Uganda. Those are my words.
Thank you. Although you didn't answer the question,
Which
but
one?
I wanted a comparison, if you're to look at, but we'll come to that later. I think I'll
Ask and I answer it.
The scale of violence we're witnessing this time
This
around, and
is
what we
unprecedented.
saw last time, yeah.
This is unprecedented. It is unprecedented to see dogs being brought to campaign rallies. It is unprecedented to see military vehicles blocking a candidate. It is unprecedented to see a candidate, actually, no, maybe he's doing a repeat. Chagurani, who is doing campaign in a bulletproof jacket, that he did it last time anyway. But there are so many things which are unprecedented. And these things, no sane Ugandan wants to this kind of thing. And where we are going, we must arrest this situation before it gets worse.
Thank you, Honorable. Dr. Sarah Bireete, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. NRM is a beneficiary of election violence, and that's why they can't strongly push back against it. They usually have two advantages over their competitors. In addition to incumbency, permanent incumbency, it's money and the tools of violence that they control by using state agencies as part of their campaigns. When this campaign started, it was largely peaceful because it was just beginning, the curtain raiser. But as the days run out, violence will increase, but also seeing openly partisan soldiers like we saw on NTV the other day, campaigning for Museveni in uniform, also such incidences will increase because that's the advantage they have over their competitors. State institutions are part of the NRM party, like the UPDF, which works like a party militia. Then you have the police that is incapable of discharging their constitutional mandate, together with the weak electoral commission. Why do I say so? If you read the mandates or functions of police and the army in our constitution, they are very clear and distinct. Article 209, clause B, only limits the army to collaborating with civilian authorities in situations of disaster and emergency. When you read Article 212, clause D, it says the police can collaborate with other civilian agencies. And the army is not a civilian agency, it's a military agency. So there has been deliberate misinterpretation of the two provisions of the Constitution to the extent that the police has now taken over matters of keeping law and order in the country. The army, which is the work of the police. And then the police pretends that they invite the army to support them. So the questions that we should seek is, what were the intentions of the framers of our Constitution to limit collaboration of the military only on disaster and emergency issues. And is an election one of the two? Is it a disaster? Is it an emergency to have the army all over the place? Two, when the Constitution says the police can collaborate with other civilian agencies, is the army part of those civilian agencies? Or it's not? So once those two questions are answered, then we will go to the work of the Electoral Commission. What is the Electoral Commission supposed to do in such instances where the army overruns their electoral mandate? We have seen previous commissions like that of Akabwai, when it cancelled the elections in Gulu, when the army had stepped in to campaign for Honorable Betty Gomba against Honorable Norbert Mao. Akabwai indeed stopped that election, and right after review declared Norbert Mao duly elected to go to parliament because of the violence of the army. Also in 2001, Aziz Kasuja as a chair, when the army went to participate into a by-election in Rukunjiri, he wrote to the president and told him to withdraw the army from Rukunjiri or he will cancel the election. And indeed the army was withdrawn. As a global chairperson of domestic election observers and chair of the Eastern Horn of Africa Election Observers Network, I have observed elections in several countries. There is no election where you find soldiers involved like in Uganda. No other country. Meaning that Uganda is working in an abnormal or proceeding in an abnormal fashion. In other countries, you can't even trace presence of any soldier. I spent about 3 weeks in Ghana. No soldier. We were next to the barracks. The Kofanani Center is next to the Ministry of Defense, Barracks and Training Institute. But I did not see any soldier, not even for a single day. So the deliberate militarization and vulgarization of elections in Uganda under President Museveni is not only unconstitutional and abnormal, but it's meant to give him advantage by using violence. So what sins have we seen? And I will use the example of Gulu. I know there are several. You broke a highway where a candidate is passing to go and campaign in that district. And each candidate is in a district alone. So you cannot say that they have collided. No. That day it was Honorable Chagulanyi to be in Gulu. You broke him from entry. He passes to move on a border. We saw the video of how a police officer removed the key from the border he had jumped to. Then he decides to walk. You descend on him, and the act was premeditated. Those soldiers had procured sticks that are no longer even used to beat cattle in Ankole, are the ones that are now used to beat opposition. So UPDF, part of the budget of taxpayers' money, they used them to procure sticks to beat people like wild animals. You descend on the people and you beat until when a young man lost his life. I know the police is releasing contradicting information, vulgarizing the memory of a dead young person, which is real unfortunate, because the videos of how that young man was tortured are still around. So you have this kind of situation, and there is no single statement. I know after Gulu Electoral Commission released the statement, seeming somehow well written but weak on the way forward. So just after Gulu, to know that the methods of Electoral Commission of issuing statements are not working, the next day the army broke to the same candidate in Fort Portal, failing him to campaign I think he was on the road for up to like 9 p.m. because by the 7 p.m. news, he was speaking on media live from the place where the army had blocked him. So what kind of elections is the Electoral Commission organizing? Also, we have weakness on the side of the citizens. Because if we had active citizenry, yeah, so the next day when the team went for Poto, the army did the same, acts, blocking the road, making sure Honorable Chagrani does not campaign. And so you realize that the Electoral Commission, unless they do what their predecessors have done before, they have failed to organize a credible election. And I think as citizens, we need to move to define what an election is and set minimum standards. To say that if the army comes and disrupts electoral process like they are doing, then that exercise is declared a nullity and we go back to zero. That's the only way that can enforce, discipline to some of these bushmen. We set minimum standards below which that exercise ceases to be called an election. So that you pick up sticks, you are beating people of the other camp, then the exercise becomes null and void. And since a president has a timeline, for example, if we reach 12th May and there is no president-elect, President Museveni will lose power. That's what will cause him now, as a commander-in-chief, to make sure the army does not create such confusion and abuse of the democratic process like they are doing today. But when there are no sanctions, then he waits to benefit from violence because the army is busy campaigning for him, the army is busy beating his opponents and arresting them. He is a beneficiary of this violence.
Dr. Ojiambo, I'm coming to you. I know we're still talking about comparisons between the scale of violence we're seeing this time around and what we saw in 2020, 21. And at the start of this conversation, before we got on air, you made mention of comments by Afande Chris Magezi to the effect that Ugandans should actually be happy that the army is beating them and not shooting them dead.
But did he say that?
That's what we've been reading in the media today.
Thank you, Judith. But before I go and answer your question, allow me just make two statements. One is to congratulate our students, now graduates, in fact graduates, all of them are now graduates, who graduated beginning yesterday to Thursday. Beginning on Wednesday to Thursday. We congratulate these young men and women and their parents and guardians and the country, because these days studying in Uganda is quite very difficult. 97% of these graduates have sponsored themselves. Sometimes, in fact, in this graduation, I did not go to the tent. I just remained out so that I can observe well. When you are seated in the tent, you can't really see. It is very interesting to see the parents of these students that we teach. It is just very interesting. Some of them are putting on shoes for the first time. It is interesting, and the happiness that they have. You really see a country where people are very poor and they only look at education as the only thing that is going to help them out of poverty. So congratulations. Secondly, yesterday in the morning, Tororo Iganga Highway woke up in a tragedy where a taxi knocked a stationed vehicle. It was aboard 12 passengers and 10 of them died on spot. This is a country, I've never seen a country like Uganda. This is a unique country where people don't value life. And no wonder, Judith, they are beating up people as if they are demonstrating. The way we used to demonstrate when we were young, at least we would cane banana stems. Saying that we are caning people. So people who don't care about people dying, An accident, 1 minute, 10 people die, no statement. I was listening on every radio and the TV to see whether the government would give any statement or the minister, nothing. So you really see people who don't care about people's lives. They don't care. And the viewers, this has been a daily thing.
Police traffic never said.
It happens almost every day. It happens every month. And nothing has been done to make sure that these vehicles which are normally on the road, which are causing so many people to die, including a very big person died, a government officer in the name of Ayume, died from the same stationed vehicle thing, allegedly. The one of Ayume, we don't know. Having said that, Judith, I have a statement here which was written by Yoweri Museveni. I saw it on the WhatsApp and I thought it was a joke. But I went to the archives, I confirmed, yes, he had written this statement to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Then in 1980, the so-called 1980 election, which has always been used as an example. And he wrote to the chairperson, but I will not read everything because of lack of time. He raised 4 issues, and I just want to share with the viewers. One, he was forced. He said that this election is not going on well, I'm summarizing, and if something is not done, we shall be forced to resort to other means. We particularly note and urge you to address the following. Number 1, he said, arbitrary arrest of our supporters. That was number 1. Number 2, violence by security forces against our supporters. Number 3, a biased electoral commission controlled by Milton Obote and Paulo Mwanga in favor of UPC. And number 4, removal of our campaign posters and illegal interference with our candidate, Mr. Museveni rallies. And last, I said 4, 5, there are 5. Voter bribery with food and money. And he said, forewarned is forearmed. He signed and he released that statement. That's the good thing of archives and history. And it goes very well into your question. It goes very well into your question that you have asked. And you want me to compare this election and the last election in 2021. Me, I want to tell you that elections in Uganda have always been violent, especially the ones I've observed from 1996. 1980, I was a young man, I don't know. But these ones I have seen from 1996. 1996 was not so bad with the small skirmishes of Rukungiri and others. There was no horrendous things that happened other than the beating up of Semogerere in Rukungiri. 2001, Kakoza Mutale came with the Karangala action something. And the people were beaten left and center. The only thing is that it was limited in Kampala. The nice one was 2006. Under a general of the army, I will not mention his name because these days is on the crying side, so I don't want to bring him problems. This general of the army beat up people in Kampala, okay, commandeered. In Jinja, I have a nephew who lost his leg because he was shot by soldiers in my village, commandeered by this man during election. Of course, 2021 was unique. It was a massacre. 2021 was a massacre. Many people died. Police told us that there were 57. I tend to disagree with them. That was police record. But very many people died. Some unaccounted for up to today. And very many people were kidnapped. We don't know whether they were killed or what happened to them. A few of them have been allayed to court. You can imagine from 2021 up to today, their cases have not been heard Not even some of them they have not mentioned in court. And we claim we are in a government and we walk around, protecting our gain. It is because we don't care about life, and that's where I started from. Right now, I cannot compare this one with the other one because this one is going up to January, in fact up to February. So we are not yet sure. But so far, it is competing with the 2021. The only thing that we have not had are people driving around and shooting indiscriminately like they did in 2021, where they were shooting what we used to see in Afghanistan and these places and on films, where a vehicle just comes and shoots into people and they die and nobody explains. We have not yet seen that. But the violence on people is almost at the same level with the 2021. And for me, for people who want to argue that you see these are selected problems, no, this is an orchestrated thing. And that's why I don't agree with the people who think that the command and the command structure does not know these problems. Because the little knowledge I know about army is that army goes on command, control, and communication. There is no time that the commander of armed forces does not get information which is happening in Gulu, in Lira, especially if that information involves the armed forces. So there is no way you can tell me that President Yoweri Museveni does not know what happened in Gulu. It is impossible. Because when you look at that thing, it looks like a real command, control, and there is a lot of communication going on. So it is in those triple C. The triple C is really, you see it working. And for me, I think you have said in your preamble that you see these things are caused by the rhetorics in the campaign. And I've had people condemn some candidates. Of course, they fear to condemn one of the candidates. But you see, in our place where I come from, they normally say that when mother cow is chewing the cud, the calves observe and imitate even. And therefore fire begets fire. If the president of the Republic of Uganda was a kind of person who would go to a campaign rally, talk about his manifesto, not demean other candidates, not abuse them and call them funny names, I don't think they would answer back. But the president, and for me, I don't blame him because that is him. You can't change an 80-year-old person. That is him. But I thought that as head of state, there is something that is required of him. In fact, he should be the one telling people that please stop this. And I want to tell you, if Yoweri Museveni said stop it, you will not see anybody beating anyone anywhere. It cannot happen. I'm not saying that he supports the beating, but the beating must be orchestrated by the systems that he knows. Why? I have always said that NRA, and I've always said this, that NRA, when it started in 1981, but of course it had come from FRONASA, it has always operated a two-tier administration, where you have the military and the political wing. Now, in most cases, the political wing is stronger than the military because the head of both is the same person, and he favors the military more than the politics. And now in the military, also they have created another structures. We have the military. If the military was just UPDF, without all Uganda police, without these structures that I'm going to talk about, wouldn't have a problem. In every time we have had here, UPDF normally has a militia. UPDF has a militia. Those days, it started with something guarding the president in the commander in the bush. It is not part of the NRA. It is under a different command. When he became president, it became PGB. Now it is SFC. It is just recently, in fact, last year when they did the amendment, that SFC was regionalized into the army, but it has been operating as a militia. And because of that, it becomes very difficult to command such a structure. If you are UPDF commander, you also command the other group, which is not known. Police. When Kaihura came here, he started introducing all sorts of police. There is police. Those days, they had not yet changed the act. It was Uganda police. So you had Uganda police. Now they added their force. We could have Uganda police, but you have other people. SSP. I used to call them stupid. It was SPC, stupid police constables. But later they told me that it was not stupid. But I said, why are they there? So these ones would be picked, trained a little bit in the village there, and given batons and guns. Now, even now we have them. We have them, people who are mobilized very quickly. They are trained, and they start also masquerading that they are police. Then you have LODU, a local defense unit. Local defense unit. They also operate with the police. And of course, the worst is what Sarah has talked about, where now the police is overrun by the army or the army militia. You go to a police station these days, I normally just observe, you find a policeman seated here and an army man here, then LDU here. And sometimes the LDU or the army man is the one giving orders to the police officer. So how do you expect such a police, such police to commandeer or maintain law and order? Now, soldiers are not trained to maintain law and order in their training. When they take them to Kapeka or Kaweweta or these places, they don't train them to maintain law and order. They maintain them to fight. So every time and I'm now answering your question of Majezi. Every time you deploy them, it's like you have deployed them to go and fight. They are going to fight an enemy. So no wonder when they reach the people in the villages, they are like treating them as if they are treating enemies in Lubumbashi or in where we have had enemies in Uganda here and so many others. So for me, I don't see this stopping. And why is it not going to stop? Because the two structure, the military always wants to protect the administration. And at the end of the day, you find even now these other people who are also campaigning from opposition, they also start creating such things. You remember Solidar of Lukwago. You remember those militias called Solidar. Nasa Ntege is the one who introduced, in fact, this thing, his group, I don't know, he used to call it what. Then you remember the 1010 of FDC, 1010 people, and so many others. Now, when you have a confused society like this, what you are bound to see is what you are seeing. So it is not by coincidence. But for me, I really feel that Uganda is slightly above this. We should leave this to other countries, which I don't want to mention, these rogue countries. You cannot have a country where you have rogue policemen, rogue soldiers, rogue RDCs, rogue politicians, rogue everybody. We are not a rogue country. And for us who stay in this country as our motherland, we feel so bad that we are living in a rogue groups. So how do you go and participate in this election? I sympathize with these people who are campaigning. Sometimes you look at the only person who is comfortable in these elections is the president. And for me, I am watching as somebody who does not support any of them as for now. You find it is only the president who is confident. Look at Chagulanyi. How do you campaign for presidential election like this? This Chagulanyi should first be taken to Israel or to Korea, South Korea or somewhere to train military. Because you cannot go. You're a civilian. You are going to face military men. They have canes. They have bombs. They have everything.
But this is a civic process.
It is
that
not.
Is open to civilians.
Unless if you are watching if you watch different news. That is not election. You have watched elections in Kenya. Are they like this? Don't people have processions go from this town to the other town. Sometimes you wonder, how do these ones manage theirs? You don't see soldiers beating people. You have watched elections in Malawi recently. They defeated the incumbent president. You have watched elections in Botswana. You have watched elections in Namibia. You have watched elections. Where have you seen something like this other than South Sudan?
Okay, thank you. So again, just to read, Sarah, you were asking if Kano Magezi actually made this statement. So he was on Next Radio, and this is a post on X where they're quoting him. He says, "We tend to be driven more by emotions than by logic. For instance, people are outraged because some individuals were beaten with sticks. Yet in some of our own communities, parents still administer corporal punishment to their children, and some schools do the same." That was a post on X. And then he reposted and tagged a picture of a baton, and he said, "Law enforcement officers have legal authority to use physical force in crowd control, including the use of batons. Batons are, in my view, even more vicious than ordinary sticks, which the public is wailing about. Yet you do not see the same energy condemning corporal punishment, which is still widely applied in our society, oftentimes with the tacit approval of parents, guardians, and those in positions of responsibility. It is called hypocrisy. The security forces will not be intimidated and will continue to take firm action against belligerent groups, individuals, and criminals who do not comply with guidance of law enforcement officers undertaking their legitimate duty to maintain public law and order." The batons are coming. That's what he says. That was
I
in
just
his
want to know
post.
maybe from Honorable Banyenzaki, what does Magezi mean? Because I've never seen
It's not Magezi, it's Magezi.
Magezi, what does it mean?
It's
An
different.
intelligent person.
Oh, they give them in opposite.
Okay, so let me come to you, Robert. And I know you've been working with journalists on the front lines. And we talked before, and I was asking if you're documenting the kinds of violations that we are seeing happening in the different campaign trails, especially on the side of journalists. What can you tell us from your observation and from your conversations with the media?
Yeah, thank you very much. We are part of the wider civil society that tries to keep an eye on the electoral process generally. So while we look out for issues that happen to journalists, we also see the rest that happen to other supporters of candidates. So I can ably speak about both because we do not close one eye and keep one on the journalists. Certainly a lot has happened to journalists during this campaign, but your question was a compulsion in some way.
Election and this time around.
Yeah,
yes.
the very main difference for me is that during the 2021 elections, violence started on the very day of nominations, where you saw Pollar being whisked away, nominated without shoes, and that became his campaign symbol later. Where you saw Bobby Wine arrested and manhandled right from the onset, and that really was an insight into what was going to happen throughout the campaign, and indeed happened. With this one, we saw a semblance of calmness, and to our estimation, that was supposed to be the flow. Let alone, things really turned more violent, and we are seeing it even play out in a worse form than it did in 2021. And this time around, it's the heavy presence of the military, of course, leading at the front. Maybe somebody would need to explain to us how and at what point does the police inviting the army to support them. Because in here, you see, right from the morning or in the night, there's a heavy military deployment. Sometimes they overnumber the police presence. And that is a fusion of the roles of these two entities. And that confuses the elections even the more. Recently, we had an engagement in Entebbe, and we discussed with justice law and other sector actors together with the civil society. And we were very convinced by the head of human rights in the UPDF, Major Gerard Muhumuza Tulibitiribe. And he said, no, we do not arm sticks to our UPDF people. They have guns. Where you see a stick, we must investigate that. Even we did a press conference later and repeated the same. Days later, we saw emergence of many military fatigue with serious sticks, whipping everyone on site, including police and bodyguards of Bobby Wine, who were pleading for mercy at that point. And he said they would invest. That time he promised that that would be a case of an investigation. We don't know if that is going to happen anywhere because we have not heard that the investigations are starting soon. And also the other difference is that the chaos that has happened now was kind of anticipated, especially on our part as the journalists, because many senior journalists have shunned these elections because of what happened to them last time. This time they're saying we're keeping away, we can't be belittled. You can't treat us like that. And they're running away for safety. I was even for career purposes saying I don't want to be killed because of an election. So we're seeing a bit of new people taking up the mantle of reporting elections. Certainly that happens to the detriment of the posterity or continuity of elections, because if you have many senior people shying away, you deploy new, maybe they will have honed more skills, and then they also run away because of what has happened to play out in terms of violence. And this time, like Robert says, it is only one candidate who seems to be very comfortable because he finds an organized audience, like or rally, people already assembled. But these ones are organic audiences where Bobby Wine sleeps in a hotel. He has not invited anyone. He wakes up to a mammoth crowd outside of the hotel, people chanting. And that is how elections are supposed to be. It's supposed to be organic. You do not prepare your audiences. People will come from wherever to cheer you up. I think that is a failure of appreciation of how campaigns really happen. Because we would not be having problems with tear gassing, live bullets, arresting people, beating them to near pulp, and taking them even to courts of law and charging them on things you've never heard of. For us, we were very surprised last time when we saw many of Bobby Wine's people being arrested in Masaka and charged with aggravated robbery because they said they stole a phone from a journalist. Somebody says they had a knife. And from where we sit, we are done on this matter decisively. Because we sat with the two journalists who said their things had been taken away. We compensated the journalists, actually, because from where we sit, we gave about $1 million to one of the journalists to replace a phone, another 3.5 million to replace a camera, video camera, and they were all bought. So to us, now we are pursuing some element of a criminal element, but not the one that turned out to be where a number of other people kept being arrested, including Edi Mutwe, Sebuf, and others.
But those journalists were able to identify the people who had done those criminal acts to them?
We asked for evidence, but there wouldn't come a piece of evidence that would incriminate the said people. But because they said there was a confrontation, we didn't want to wish it away, so we gave room for investigations. And also we approached the party saying you have to take a responsibility because you are in there, and it's then that things happened this way. As they investigated themselves before coming up with anything, then a number of other people are being arrested. That's why we took a conscious decision as an organization to disassociate ourselves from the ongoings. Because now it had taken very new things. You don't know how the charge sheets had been changed, to read differently. They are all new to all of us. So there was a formal communication that this is not what we entered into. We are going off this. And that is another time to blackmail the journalists. Because now people from NUP would hate the journalists for being used to arrest their own. And that has a spillover effect on the rest of the journalists. Many would fear to go to cover NUP, saying maybe the fans, the foot soldiers and others might mob us up. So we had to come in and say, this is not what we supported. And in that regard, we also have seen, of course, an attack on journalists this time around, but 2021 was worse, we must admit, where journalists would be rounded up every time they appeared on the scene. That's how we ended up having the likes of Ashraf Kassiri being shot being shot at as collateral damage, Carlton Scovia being arrested. You know, you can count the number, it's endless. Journalists losing their teeth and so much that was happening. This time around, the journalists have been targeted, not to that level. We hope doesn't play out the same way. So in terms of violence on the media, it's high, not to that scale though. Only that, of course, we have the National Media Group, which is banned from covering the president, and that is too much because and Parliament, and these are the presidency and Parliament are the two key institutions in our governance, and they're separable. They need a watchdog role or accountability more than even the judiciary. Yeah. Because with the judiciary, you sit in, see how things play out, and you can't question them a lot in terms of what they do as judicial officers. But these two entities, Parliament and the presidency, is where our eyes all are kept. And it's mysterious and suspicious why they're being turned away at a time when we're having elections. The other is about accountability. Who is holding the perpetrators accountable if the powers that be defended them? Yeah, we have an issue last time and this time around of if say somebody is at fault, how do you dispense justice? Yeah, when do you hear out this person? Because if you're arresting them, beating them, torturing them, then keeping them in the cells for days, and later taking them to courts of law and charging them, already they have served a more severe punishment than what the courts will serve out to them. So it's like double jeopardy. Yeah, you're charging two people twice using the same everything. From where we sit, we think that is also very, very unbecoming of an electoral period. And finally, it's about the state within which the media is operating. We take note of every news item that plays out on radio and TVs mainly. You really see that they're too scared to start news mentioning another candidate other than the incumbent. So they have totally disregarded the key tenets of what makes news: audit, proximity, impact, newness, and all those things. But I think to play safe, people will always begin with the NRM candidate, so and so has done this, and then they will go to Bobby Wine, and the rest can come in that order.
Balance.
Yes, but in a natural way of sourcing news, it would be incumbent on what has happened during the day that will shape which news item comes first. That is not happening. So you really see that fear is intensifying within the media spectrum. Either it's because the NMG was banned, or it's because people still want to live and say, we need our license renewed, or we need to be able to get our paycheck in terms of government revenue and advertisements. And that is not giving a fair playground to the candidates to be heard. Yet it is very incumbent upon the media to try to balance, to give fair space, yes, coverage. If that is not happening, then there is a problem. And I really see that there is a problem in this regard. And we want to call upon, who is it, the Electoral Commission? Who do we even call upon in this regard? The
Electoral Commission is also pleading.
Because we need to appeal to someone. The commission will also call it upon the army to allow the media to flourish, to flow. But who? Because now the head of security last time was telling us we don't arm our UPDF with sticks, and it was on record. All of us were present. In terms of the DPP, Uganda Mass Commission, the military, in terms of army, police, all of us were there, local government, and said, no, we do not. I can retrieve that record. But then we are seeing them all over with the sticks. So who is fooling who in any case, and who must you listen to? How do you even go to plead now in that regard? So I think it's a whole mess that is happening around these elections, and something must really be extremely wrong. And like Comrade Henry said, nobody is condoning this violence. Everybody is displeased, even within this higher hierarchies where he goes. Maybe we do not go there. People are wondering what is happening. How can it be happening and we're under a civic action of elections? So how would you even expect this process to be credible, free, and fair at the end of the day?
Except we're not hearing these voices come out loud enough to actually condemn what is happening. But also, you had a meeting with the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and we saw what the chairperson said a few days ago about the level of fear she's operating under,
Yes.
and how this also impacts how much the commission can do or how far it can go in terms of addressing some of these human rights issues that are emerging. Yes. You just wind up and I
let me
move
say
to
something
Major.
about that, about the fear. I think she's one of a brave character that comes out to say it when it's getting really too bad. She's the mother and the father, so a breadwinner. Doesn't want to lose that job, but she's forced to still come out and say, I'm not at peace. So you can know how to judge her if it comes to public opinion of her performance. She's the same person who came out last time and said, these people want to solicit a bribe through me. She reported and even produced evidence. That time she issued an order, release so-and-so, Ed Mutwe and others. So she's trying to come up. And here then the intimidation is, always coming out.
Directed against
And says
her.
she's even scared of the people around her. So how do you even work?
She said the people carry guns.
Yes, carry guns. She's scared of them. So I think it's an institutional structure. I don't want to use the word
But
decay.
that also
And-
tells you that that fear is
Yes.
not just limited to the commission.
Yes.
That is perhaps the environment within which the broader Ugandan society is operating, including the media that you've just been talking about. And we are seeing this already from your explanation reflected in the kind of coverage and the narratives and how stories are being told about this election.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Major, I know we've talked a lot, and you are always the
Yeah,
disciplined.
a lot of notes.
Summarize on behalf of
Yes.
Talking is much.
Yes, so of course, we're still discussing the comparisons, but I think people have talked. I'd still like to hear what you say. But also, at the start of this conversation, Honorable Banyenzaki said he wanted to hear your thoughts about the militarization and the scale of violence that we're seeing that is characterizing this electoral cycle. And I don't know if you would add your voice also to what to his voice.
As an RM
earlier.
Secretariat.
Yes, thank you.
Do I have enough time?
You do have enough time, do we? Okay, 5 minutes, we'll take a break and then you will come back still.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course, that was my worry. Your question was precise about the comparison. But as you
Let's
said,
start with
so
that.
many things came in that needs answering. I hope I will have the capacity to weave my answer, but with a clear thematic concern on your question. First of all, the question, it is even unfortunate that as a country we still ask that we are comparing worst situation. We are comparing violence. We shouldn't be doing that. Secondly, that there's no clear yardstick of measuring the amount of violence such that it could be easier for us to know which one is worse, which one is not, because you want to measure violence in violentometer or violentogram.
Qualitatively.
So, but now we start now to look for facts and scenarios and, to try to do the measurement. In 2021, I was an actor in the political scene, but as a flag bearer in my constituency. So I was kind of localized in the constituency and the district. And this time round, I'm at the Secretariat, which kind of exposes me at the command post of my party. And also the fact that my party is the party in power, so by extension, I am also on the command post of the government. More so when it comes to failures. Because Judith, when something happens good in government, it is the government which has succeeded. When something happens bad, it is NRM. So we take the bad and the good is taken away. But somehow we are still vicariously liable anyway, because we are the ones who got the mandate in 2021 as a party to rule for up to 2026, and we formed a government. And the direct way of forming a government is that we appointed ministers. Tafire for internal affairs, defense, we appointed this. Even the Constitutional Commission, these commissions, independent as they are, still it is our party chairman, who is the president, who appoints. So sometimes it's difficult to dissect my political liability and the other state liability, but we shall continue on. Therefore, I do notice that in 2021, there is that record that says 50 people were killed, although I've expressed my doubts here because they said it is 50. I've always wondered how 50 people from Ginger Road to Wanege, how many people would be on the street, but it seems this in somebody's record. But it looks like that is a BBC record. But to this effect, the government has said 2 prosecutions were done for that. One, who killed in Wanege police after arresting somebody, was sentenced to death. Another one who killed in a garage in Rubaga was sentenced to 50 years in jail.
He killed in the name of NRM?
During that
The 2020
during
November,
that riot,
yes.
they went arresting people and they killed this baby. So they were taken to court martial. That one is on record. Now, the state still made an open statement that if you have evidence now that Sergeant Okello or Sergeant Tumwesije killed that day and you have evidence, come up with it, prosecution will be initiated. As we all know, criminal matters don't go bad. It is civil matters that go bad. Now, so if you go by that record and now, therefore you see like 2021 was more than now. But also I'm wondering whether in 2021 we had a very robust social media framework like WhatsApp. I'm trying to recall how often I was using for the WhatsApp then, whether I was posting my campaign, I don't remember. But it looks like now with the robust technology, it has also made things a lot, information circulation a lot easier. And therefore it makes judgment like, oh, now it is. Then behind that, there was the Kabaka riot for going to Kayunga. It was then Facebook, when government intervened and closed it, which actually I think it was the right thing to be done because it was being used to foment chaos.
That was 2009, the Buganda riots.
Yes,
Yeah,
because somebody would burn a car, for example, in Natete and post on Facebook and say, in Natete we have already started burning. You people in Bwai say, what are you waiting for? You be there, start burning also. You could clearly see that the social media was a source of insecurity and it would be called for to stop such. And I equally think that if Tanzania had not stopped recently, possibly they would have headed for genocide. Now, therefore, I'm saying this time round, it seems the technology is more robust and makes circulation of information much easier, which means at that time we couldn't make a comparative assessment. Anyway, to answer your question, I don't know the difference between now and then, particularly to evaluate which one is worse. I can't tell. I have tried, I failed.
Is it worse now?
That's
He
what
has
I'm
said
saying.
he
I
has
can't
failed.
tell.
He can't
now.
tell, yes.
Is it bad?
Yeah.
Just a minute. Let Major finish. And then
Now,
he will
I'm going
respond
to
you.
a question that you read for me what I'd said, number one, because Honorable seems to be, and you see I've numbered them.
Yes.
Number one, even before we started, what is my question?
Do you benefit from violence?
So I'm coming to your question and you're so impatient. This was my number one and I have up to number what? I have to up to number 9. So if in my number 9 is what? But I have to answer a question.
Yeah, but let's just
I
allow
have to answer
Major.
a question.
Let's allow him.
My number
respond.
1 is, do we benefit from violence? Where we here means NRM. Or even we could mean Ugandans. We don't. And therefore, do we condemn it as a party? We do. Judith and colleagues, there is this post, for example, where they threw somebody from a car and they were stepping on his head. In all honesty, I can open you our WhatsApp forum. Do you think if such a thing is posted on, say, directors forum, you think we celebrate? or even the forum of SEC, Central Executive Committee, on the forum of Secretariat staff, because we all have WhatsApp for all of us. We don't, as the institution, we don't. We do not think that stepping on somebody or torturing somebody can add a vote to NRM. We do not even think that torturing can scare voters to the extent that they will say, you see, if we don't vote for them, they will beat us. I don't think Uganda would have reached that stage in a secret ballot. Therefore, why would we say we want it? Because it has us votes when they are tortured? Is it because they will be scared and said, okay, now that they have tortured us, let's go and vote? No. This, therefore, now makes me reaffirm that as a party, we don't agree with violence, we condemn it, and we don't like it. It now pushes us, therefore, to the government that you control, the enforcement officers. As a party, we control the government. For example, the army. You realize in one of our manifestos in the past, we had advocated calling for votes because we wanted to professionalize the army.
Yes.
So if you are a party and you are requesting for a vote and you want to professionalize the army, it means you control the army. And therefore, how do you start to work for it on it? By appointing your political leader, by providing the necessary budget, by making sure that the political leader, the minister, tells the institutions to draw up programs and syllabus and courses for professionalization. In that way, we are controlling the army. And a similar thing is done to all state institutions. We do it. And therefore, we now look at the enforcement officers. Enforcement officers are supposed to engage in the rules and standards. We expect them to do that. And because we tell them they should train. If they didn't have money for training, we would get it through cabinet and put it in the national budget and they would be trained. So we do not see why that doesn't happen. However, these officers have argued that, do we also have rights? We said, yes, you do. You have rights as enforcement officers. You are free from abuse. You are free from insult. You are free from being physically assaulted. Those are your rights. They have rights like us. Absolutely. But we said, if you have that rights, remember rights are protected by the law. The police have an overall law for arresting for obstructing police duty. That is one law that gives them a power for protection against their rights. But even the penal code would still prosecute whoever assaulted the police. Therefore, their rights are covered. But however, we told them, even if you have your rights, rights go with duties and responsibilities. The responsibilities and duties in this case is, a law was passed called the Human Rights Enforcement Act, which means in this law, the key tenet in this law is that it removed the defense of Attorney General. In the past, if police go to control riots and they break your leg, and you sue a police officer who broke your leg, it would raise the defense of Attorney General. That I was not doing my mother's work, I was doing government work, sue Attorney General. But in this Human Rights Enforcement Act, it is saying you are personally liable. And this should call a commitment how we condemn violence, because we have for a long time had majority in parliament. We could block any law if we didn't want it. Besides, even a national chairman would not assent to such a law. But we did not block the Human Rights Enforcement Act. The president assented to it. It is a law in force. So we have...
Yeah, it's fine. Just wind up and then we take a break.
So I am just listing to this extent, to the extent to which we condemn violence, to the extent to which we have institutionally provided means of disabling violence.
Thank you. On that note, we take a break, and then when we return, we'll still give you the microphone to continue sharing your insights. We are discussing, of course, Uganda decides the cost of election violence. This is the Citizens Chat Show. We'll be back shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and we're glad that you're still with us here on the Citizens Chat Show as we continue with our discussion on the topic, Uganda decides the cost of election violence. We finished the first part, and now we're looking at the second part. And the question I want to also pose to you guys, when you have a law enforcement agency like the police being accused of being the aggressor in a civic process like we're in, what are the long-term implications of this to the rule of law and public trust? How does it impact these aspects? And then secondly, when Robert was talking, he was saying, we don't know who to actually call upon, okay? Ideally, who should effectively control or monitor and hold institutions accountable for these human rights abuses during an election cycle? Because the institutions that should ideally be vocal, we are hearing the narratives and the commentaries from them about being scared, being afraid, being intimidated. Who is then going to step and take over this mandate?
I thought I still had my 5 minutes.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Major.
You are.
I am so sorry. But that
It
would
should be on record that
yeah, so you will also answer that, and then we'll come back this side. Yes.
Yes, but I just want to, I know this discussion is continuous, so I want to really say everything. But I like to conclude on the violence, that violence on opposition party, we have done our research that it works for them than for us. No. We did a research at a time when President Museveni was or our candidate was in Germany. We asked people, because that week there had been no alternation with Bobi Wine. So we asked people, where is Bobi Wine today? 10 people in succession were saying they didn't know. And the same people we asked, they knew where Museveni was. Meaning, the more alternations, if you beat Bobi Wine today in Mityana, and you arrest him and he was heading to Mubende, everybody gets to know, oh, yesterday was in Mityana, he should be today in Mubende. So we're saying, why would you do that when you really give free publicity to our opponent? So we know violence counts against. Now, Electoral Commission and officers, enforcement, have been saying they agreed. They meet often in Electoral Commission and they agree on routes and where to pass. They're saying their contention is when they agree, because every representative of a candidate, they have a forum in Electoral Commission and they agree. The Electoral Commission and police is insisting that what we have been seeing is a disagreement of a candidate not following a route. They insist, and they said the candidate is aware. So this calls on code of conduct and discipline among parties. The law demands that every party should have a code of conduct. But I can assure you, Judith, we are the only party with a code of conduct, which makes, yes, all these political parties, they write in their constitution, there shall be a code of conduct, and none has. For us, we have a code of conduct, and we operationalize it. It is on record that Honorable Sentamo has said that these people, they are wrong people in this group, and they are the ones throwing stones. We said, but how can I have wrong people putting on yellow and I'm their commander? I would arrest you. When our party president went to Tango Doi to pick the nomination for the party, Some people put on yellow and went on the road robbing people, including robbing Akulu, the former director of CID. They were arrested. They were taken to court in Buganda Road. Their defense was that we are NRM. We said, go to jail. To date, they're in jail. Very many of them. Because we cannot have you in yellow and you purport to be us and we leave you. If Bobby Wine is saying indeed they are people, why can't he control his people? Now, if you can't control your people, it means they are yours. Okay? We can't. We can't do that. So, and also you have seen compensation for the compensation for the loss of things. Some people would think it is a frame up things, but we knew it would come up that indeed there was that theft. Indeed, there was compensation. So, parties should have their code of conduct. Parties should control their person so that we mitigate violence. We mitigate violence. So, otherwise, there's a school of thought which says that our colleagues in the other side believe that if there is no alternation, if there is no tear gas, one was heard over saying in Uganda, that in Uganda, that we have lost. Today we have lost. Meaning, there's no news to sell. But it still works on us. It still works on us, the state enforcement officers. To what level of provocation do you respond to that? They should be trained to do that. Otherwise, any fault of a provocation and a reaction will not be good for us.
But
so we
someone was
condemn.
killed in Uganda, just like Sarah was
That's
saying.
why he
Yes.
had the biggest crowd.
Yes.
Yes, because then there was that. After that, there was that provocation. Now, I want to say this. There's a comment about the media and our relationship. The nation media has had issues. At least our national flag bearer has said it again and again. I think he even talked to Aga Khan about it. If you want to see, the media house group includes the Monitor, KFM, NTV, and what else?
Spark.
Just take a case of Monitor newspaper. Check on the headline from Monday to Sunday. I think our chairman has decided that even if you came for my rally, you will twist it anyway.
No,
so be aware.
what's the problem exactly with the headlines that the Daily Monitor carries?
Because they are not putting the boss on.
No.
What's the problem? No, that's what I need to know.
The thematic concern, the editorial policy, which is seen in the heading, is negative to our flag bearer.
It is just being critical journalism.
So the flag bearer said, even if I call you, you will still twist what happened. So stay away, and it is right. But I like to say, we have 80 journalists following our candidate because we threw a party to thank them in Umbale and attended the party. So we have enough journalists. Now, if we disagree with
Except the Nation Media Group.
yes, if we disagree with one whom we know for sure, even if our candidate comes and says something good, he will twist the headline. I wish you could even...
Major, I'm sorry to cut you short, but just reading between the lines of what you're saying, the message you are sending us and the viewers is that your party, and your party chairman in particular, is intolerant to the voices of criticism. He is intolerant to critical reporting. But that is the hallmark of journalism. It is not about glory praising. Okay?
It is.
And indeed,
Judith,
if you also scrutinize the content of the Daily Monitor and NTV, it is not always negative talk about the NRM. Where there are good things, it also reports about it. But what would then be the role of a media house if all it does is to massage egos?
let's not talk theory. Each of us here has IT or capability. When I finish talking, or when somebody's talking, kindly list for me the headline on Monitor from last Monday. Today is Thursday. Even Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, and read it aloud. We'd see. You'd see definitely this headline are really injurious to the candidate. You can even list it. Go on one line, said on Monday the headline was this. On Tuesday, the headline was this. On Wednesday, the headline was this. On Thursday, the headline was this. We read it here. It's so injurious.
Is
So
it that they're
our
not
candidate,
factual?
so no, it is editorial policy is intended to bias against. That is the editorial theme. So our chairman has said, even if I call you to my rally, I will say something, you will twist it. So stay away.
As head of state,
Stay
you have
away.
to be scrutinized, and that's what the media does.
Scrutiny
anywhere
is
in the
different
world.
from twisting. I don't know why you want dialogue at this time. There's a difference between criticisms and a deliberate editorial policy to distort and make somebody look bad. Please, I want to get the headings, and then in my second intervention, I will read the headline on Monitor. On Monday was this, on Tuesday was this, and you will see it.
And you read the one
Okay.
with New Vision also.
Now-
Which in the piece.
Okay, now, therefore, we are okay with journalists, and we have enough, and we have 8 who are following. Right from day one, they live with us. They have not gone back to their homes.
Because
They-
you
they
have
are
a
moved.
budget. to
No,
take
they are
care.
funded by their different organizations. They are funded. So they are funded by their organizations. They are funded. It's like you are telling me that when CNN or BBC is following Trump, the BBC report is paid by Trump.
Which
No way.
media houses?
No way.
You have what? Who have
If
this,
there's
that
a
kind of budget?
there's a BBC journalist attached in White House or attached to follow Trump. That BBC journalist is
Yeah.
paid by the organization.
Yeah,
We
but
say
the budget of the
Hours.
BBC is
hours
not the
they
budget.
pay for themselves. I have a view to all the budget we have. We are the ones, the top management, we are the ones who draw all the budget.
You don't
There's
have
no
a media
budget for
budget.
those journalists.
Even classified
You
budget.
have a budget.
Yeah, there's no.
You don't have a budget for media? You have.
Media,
Robert,
no, we
you
don't
will let
have
us
what you're
know.
talking about. So now,
Some of these things are here.
we have journalists who are following us. They have not abandoned us. And therefore, we,
5 minutes.
my final comment, which is really a light one, is, is that the incumbency. His complaint was that news start with mentioning our candidate. Even in America, once you're incumbent, even on BBC, CNN, I do not see a Trump, a candidate, and they mentioned the other one before. It's just because there's attraction to an incumbent, and therefore it attracts news. It attracts news.
Well,
So
the element
yeah.
of prominence is certainly there, but
Yes.
he was talking about the issue beyond the prominence.
How? His issue was that it attracts first item position. And it does, naturally, because you're the incumbent, you're the president.
Is
So
that-
how would you, we have 8 presidential candidates. It would be difficult for, apart from the known one, like General Muntu, Nandala, Bobby Wine, it would be difficult for any of them to hit headlines, maybe unless one gets an accident or something. So how would you, which day should you? So an incumbent has more advantage to news making, and it happens all over the world.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore, I want to conclude by the fact that way forward for us is we take a position as a party and we condemn it, which we do. We had an issue to discuss in Mbale about that. We can also tell our chairman, who incidentally is the commander-in-chief, okay? We can tell our commander-in-chief about our views, which we have repeatedly said. And also, part of this, we raise it in our joint meeting in Electoral Commission by telling Electoral Commission in that meeting that don't think we are happy about this. We have said it, and we have stated our position on a number of issues like that. For example, when there was an attempted move to have a law or to elect a leader of opposition, as a party, we made our position known that we are not in for it. So in a similar event, in the institutional framework in Electoral Commission, where all candidates have representatives, we have repeatedly told Election Commission that manage your business. For us as a party, we don't benefit from that. So we have so many institutional framework to condemn this violence, and we have said it.
Allow me one question.
Yes, please.
Do you think your chairman, who is the commander-in-chief, knows what's happening about the misconduct of the army?
2 questions. My thinking and his knowing. my thinking is that he knows. But as to whether he knows it as in discipline, I am not sure. But he knows there is always alternation and conflicts between enforcement officers and some candidates. So whether you call that an indiscipline for now, which means it is judged and concluded, I know for a fact that he's aware that there's always a conflict. And I know he also knows that most of this conflict is as a result of a violations of an agreement at the Electoral Commission where I said all candidates have representatives. He knows that that is where the violation comes, and that is where arguments start, and that is where conflict starts. That is that one is very aware.
That means that he approves of the army beating civilians with sticks like wild animals.
But that was not the first question.
No,
You
is
asked
he
another
aware?
question. I said he's not aware
It
of
is a follow-up
discipline, he's
question.
aware about the allocations. Now, about the detailed operational methods.
Beating
So her
citizens
interpretation,
like
her
wild
interpretation
animals.
of what you said is that if he is aware,
Then he approves.
then he approves. That is her interpretation of.
Because if he is aware and he's doing nothing, either he's a failure in that office or he approves of the army brutality against citizens.
Okay.
That is your interpretation.
So I want us to go to the
That
rule
is
of
your
law,
interpretation.
the rule of implications, consequences for the rule of law and public trust when the police, which is the ultimate
Is
law
there a way
enforcement
we can find
agency,
monitor on Monday?
is
Deadline.
accused.
Monitor
We
on
can
Tuesday.
get
It's
online,
online.
go on Twitter, on X.
But I
you-
don't think that is important.
But it's fine.
We
You
can
will
start
find the
from
same
Yeah.
story with the new vision.
Maybe if he's going to
There is
trace
no
8
difference.
months back when the presidency banned NM.
Info
just
paper. Or when he
illustration. A
says
week is
info
enough.
paper.
No.
A week is
Those
enough.
headlines is not an issue.
A week is
The
enough.
issue of headlines is not an
And it
issue.
is not important
Yeah.
because we are going to go into now looking at also
Then
unless- look,
let their chasing not be important.
Look, unless
Let
we
their
have
exclusion not be
major,
important.
Unless we agree that we have a content analysis conversation on how the media has been covering at a later time, but not today.
Judith, I'm not a journalist,
So-
but every news group or have some sort of ideology. If you watch Fox
Editorial
News,
policy.
there is
This
some
called-
type of news that you find in Fox News. There is some type of news
That's-
you find
that's-
in
yes.
BBC. There is some type of news you get from Voice of America. So if I want to find some news about Uganda, I know where to find it. If I want to find news about government agencies and how they are working very well, I buy the New Vision. If I want
A critical
critical
look.
view, I go to another
Yes,
one.
that's just what it is.
But
And it's not a
Honorable-
crime.
Yes,
But
Robert,
also,
mm,
most importantly, if the president was aggrieved by the pattern of coverage, he would have brought it to the fore.
UCC.
Then maybe
And the
lodged
media
a complaint
council.
with the regulator, which is a technical body, and then
They
come in
assess
as a
the
neutral
content.
arbiter, assess and make a verdict. But if you're the person as a news source, but the president, then you complain, you're the jury, you
And
pass a
judge.
verdict, then you celebrate that these are already out. I think that is
He has
grossly
tried all
unfair.
that. He has tried all that.
Because NMD
And
is
you
looking
see,
his
could not help.
position, his position
You see-
really attracts that level of
Exactly.
It is
scrutiny.
magnanimous. You
Yes.
can't tell us that a president of a country
Shouldn't be
is
scrutinized.
as low as that.
So, okay, we are coming to the issue
You
of
go
public
and
trust.
You don't come to
Rule
me.
of
If
law.
you think you go and write somewhere else.
The rule of law, honorable, and public trust.
that is
Somewhere
not
When
else.
it lacks magnanimity.
the police is considered as an aggressor, how does this impact the rule of law and public trust?
Well, the police, of course, have they pass that they're aggressors. I want to tell you that I have personally even it is the norm in police now for them to be aggressive and unleash brutality on citizens. I personally witnessed this last week. I think I was driving and I was on City Square where a policeman was on phone, not knowing what was going on. I was the car in the lead and The policeman was not bothered. Other vehicles were moving. When I hooted for him to be aware, the guy got annoyed, banged my car, removed my number plate. As I speak now, even my car doesn't have a front number plate. And somebody raised an alarm. Then they unleashed a swarm of soldiers with tear gas, with
Against
fire.
you?
Oh, yeah, he stand firm. I was very bright. I sat in my car, but they tear gassed the guys who had come around, and they wanted to tow my car just because of an errand policeman.
Because you hooted.
You
He's
see,
hooting the guy.
so you see
And you hooted to
you see
draw
the fabric.
his attention.
Yes, you can see the fabric which is within the police. When I meet some of them, they say, "Forgive us." There are those who still have reason and logic. And today, I'm very glad with Awich, who have represented the party ably and condemned this brutality to the citizens, which is being mooted by the military. And as I had said, the president is watching them. When these guys in the police, the Chitatas and those kind of people, the Nixons and that group, we are now unleashing brutality on the citizens. He took his time to study that situation and acted. And even now, I am sure he will react. And as I told you, some of the seniorest people, much more senior than me, that I have talked with, they are not happy and they condemn this. They are actually in the state to see how do we contain this. And I'm very glad the NRM Secretariat is coming to say this is not right. But my call to the NRM Secretariat and those who have reason and logic is to speak louder and condemn these activities. Take my message to my comrade Dombo, who was my chairman of parliamentary, when we were in the parliamentary forum, parliament, PAFO. When we came to speak to defend the independence of parliament, where they had misunderstood us that we are an opposition, yet we are trying to fight for the independence of parliament. Take my message to him to speak more louder as the spokesperson of the party, because they are putting this party in a bad disrepute of the citizens. As in terms of confidence of citizens in police, me, the way I see it, they do. People have lost confidence in the police. Police have lost confidence in itself. And that's why it is even calling the army, come and help us. We are no longer confident. They think by doing all that kind of good, bad things, they are now competing to do the bad things. They're in competition to be seen beating the people. If you see what happened in Guru, there are some guys in Guru who think by doing that, they will please when they obstruct anybody going for Bobby Wine going in Guru, because my boss has been camping there, he will be happy. But he's not happy. He's not happy by what's going on there. I can tell you authoritatively. Yeah? It is not happy. He's a peaceful man. And people are trying to think that it happened in Guru because it happened in Guru.
They're catching his attention.
That is the
Oh, he's the one behind.
He's the one behind because but he's not the one behind it. So some of us zealous guys who think that, hey, in Guru, General Saria has been camping here, we must not allow Baby Wine because he pacified Guru. No. They are just trying they are out competing. No, we are not happy with it. We are not happy with this whole situation. Mm-hmm. And more voices needs to come out and condemn this thing. I think the voice we are waiting for is the voice of our president, but which is able being articulated through the NRM Secretariat. He may not come out now to speak about it, but now that the NRM Secretariat has talked, he's also talking about it. And the police, even this army, they really must make rupa, ask for forgiveness to the citizens, because their authority, they derive their authority from the citizens,
Civilians,
from the civilian. So as in terms of rule of law, I think they are trampling over the rule of law. And when such an institution do respect the rule of law, because that's why we're even hearing that what is the business of electoral commission to start deciding if a candidate is in Kabali, where should he pass? I'm in Kabali. What's the fuss about it? I've ever been in campaigns. If I'm in my constituency and I'm campaigning, I pass, I crisscross the whole constituency to make sure that I reach out to everyone. So why would the electoral commission want to say pass here? And why are they saying that pass here? Are they saying that if they say prescribe that if Bobby Wine now, I'm going to use the helicopter, they will shoot it down because they said, because they had prescribed a road where he's supposed to pass, now that you have used the helicopter, shoot it down? I think that is very wrong. If they say today Bobby Wine is campaigning in Rwanda, he's free he's in Rwanda. So let him be in Rwanda and campaign. Why do you say that when you are in Rwanda,
Don't greet this
don't
one.
wave, don't get out of people and greet the people, don't use a panya to reach there faster, don't use this road, don't use what is that? I think that the electoral commission is overstepping its mandate. And when you look at the electoral commission, how it is actually also acting, it's as if it is no longer independent. It's being acting on orders of somebody. And we have also seen where the chairman is making the law inconsequential. For example, when he came and he said that you vote and go away. Yet the law says you can vote, keep a distance of something like 20-25 meters away. And that is what has been the norm. But he's saying, no, now I give guideline. A guideline, your wishes cannot
override the law.
Cannot amend the law. So they are stepping, so the rule of law is not being applicable in these so-called guidelines. Okay? So I think a lot has to be done. And we have a very short window to act and act correctly. And so we use this short window, and this is the message that the director, Awich, should take back to the NRM Secretariat, that we better use this window to do the right things, so that even the NRM party gets the votes in the right way, wins in the right way, and we do the things using the right methods.
Thank you. Dr. Sarah.
You know, if I say that Byabakama and Byakagawa come from the same area, some people would say you are tribalistic. But it's a matter of fact that these people could even be village mates. Maybe they call each other and converse in their language on how to violate and oppress Ugandans. It's very unfortunate that the police, and we have with us in the other side, one of the advocates, that was Advocate Marek, that was brutalized by police, held in the police dungeon in the basement in Morago, and tortured. His arm is injured, broken, tortured for about 3 days, and then he charged in police, in court. So when you have these such events of many Ugandans, including him, that are victims of police brutality. It's very unfortunate that the police has outsourced its mandate to the army. Even when they have a simple act, like ensuring peaceful campaigns, we have invited the army. Invited them to do what? So the other day I saw after Mbarara, the raid in Mbarara, Byakagawa, the IGP struggling to justify on how they invited the army contrary to the constitution. Even in Guru, when the army was beating civilians as if they are wild animals, you will take to the media and say, we invited the army. Shamelessly. The level of impunity, I think that if police has no capacity to do its work, or collaborate with other civilian agencies, like the Constitution says, the Constitution never says police should collaborate with the military. And the military is not a civilian agency. So that excuse of saying we have invited the army, I think we need the Constitutional Court to draw the line in the sand, to put these people in their place, because they are reading a constitution of their own that is unknown to Ugandans. Then on the other hand, you will have Byabakama, who even takes to media and reads the electoral rolls upside down. If you finish voting, I quote, you finish voting, and he said it, the Uganda version. You finish voting and you stay at the police station, the army will harvest you like grasshoppers. A chair.
Voting.
Yes,
voting station.
a chair electoral commission. Yeah, he said that. You finish voting, you stay there, they will harvest you like a grasshopper. A chair of the electoral commission. Justice Byabakama, why don't you resign? What kind of incompetence is this? And he was duplicating an order issued prior by the army, that they are issuing an order, all people must go home after voting. But because they were not the institution in charge of elections, and I remember saying this on NTV and NBS, that they cannot order anything when it comes to elections. Then Byabakama picks their illegal order. A whole judge of constitutional court, you are reading laws upside down. Even some people, when I know sometimes you type on social media, Justice Byabakama, people say, why are you putting the word justice? Because what is justice? You know what he's doing. Where is the justice? So this is the dilemma we have with these village mates that are in charge of elections, but also with no capacity to discharge their mandate. How do we then restore law and order? You need such guys to be out of government offices, because they have no capacity to execute their mandate.
Thank you. We have very few minutes to go, so we need to just split. Dr. Ojiambo.
Judith, your question. Police is a very good institution and very important. In fact, I normally tell people that if I had not been employed at the university, I was going to become a policeman, because I'd already been enrolled. But I had to now weigh which one is better.
Did you do that?
No, I did not go for training. So I normally think that,
Ojiambo, me, I'm a commissioned prisons officer.
You enrolled?
Yeah, commissioned.
So did you apply for leave?
Yeah, no.
Retired.
I resigned and
No, the good thing with the commission, police and prison, they are civilian
They
things.
let
You can
me-
even just abandon.
they let me
Ah.
go.
Yeah.
No,
There's
no, 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 no.
problem.
It's a desertion.
They have to
No, you
discharge
don't
you.
desert in the police.
No,
in the
you-
police, if you don't...
We could be
you-
seated
it's
with
not
the
someone.
deserters.
My brother, it's a desertion.
No.
We need to wind up.
This is not a
Guys.
military thing
Time.
over which.
Okay.
It's a civilian
Dr.
thing.
Ojiambo,
So I was saying
3
that the
minutes,
police
please.
is quite important and is a very important institution. But me, what I think in Uganda, it has lacked the right people to work in police. We have people in office who feel that they are being in office to somebody. And this is what I normally tell my colleagues. I don't owe anybody for the work I do in my capacity. I owe it to only myself. And therefore I have to only follow the rules and regulations and do my work very well. So I think police is a very good institution. And the first thing I knew that police is very important. There is a morning when there was a quarrel between police and the drivers in Kampala. And the police was withdrawn from the roads for only 2 hours.
And so the mess.
The commotion we had was terrible. So we don't want to look
I
at a
remember
situation.
that night.
We don't want to look at a
We got
situation
stuck.
where people reach that and
could
there is
have
a feeling
orchestrated
that
that commotion.
police goes away. Police is very, very important. I only think that we don't have right policemen and women there, especially at the command level, because any military establishment is as good as its commander. So the policemen are nice people. Some of them do that work without wanting it. That's why you have seen the people who are caning people, if you watched, were military officers and men dressed in hoods. There were very few policemen caning people. In Gulu,
But they
Even in-
participated in the blockade.
yes, the blockade they had put it. But
Yeah,
you
the
see,
first
Dr.
I have always told you that even these policemen who put on madoa, I doubt whether they are policemen. And that's why, Honorable, you have to be very careful when you are dealing with these people. Some of them are not police officers, me, I think, irrespective of the uniform that they put on. So me, I really feel that we need the right police commanders to do the policing work and to remove the military from police. The military, these soldiers, have no role in maintaining law and order because they are not trained to do that. And unless you bring them and take them back to Masindi and other places and train them, they are not police officers. Military officers are not police officers. They are supposed to go and chase for us ADF and do other things. They are not supposed to be managing law and order. Second last is the Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission, I want to agree with the Sarah, has abdicated its duty. Because in this matter, the Electoral Commission is the boss. They can talk about law and order, they can talk about security, which are outside their mandate, but their mandate is to organize a free and fair election. To an extent that Byabakama right now, if we're in a sane country, on matters of election, is even above the president, because the president is a candidate. He's a candidate.
Yeah.
So must listen to him if he's in an election.
Yeah.
So Byabakama telling us that I am appealing, that I am advising. His role is not to advise. And Julius Muchunguzi, the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, has been misleading the public that Electoral Commission want to dialogue with the people. And he has been using the analogy of football, which I'm better. I understand football better than he does. That you see, the Electoral Commission is just a referee. A referee does not dialogue with anybody. The referee applies the rules of football.
Yeah.
If it is a foul, yellow card. If it is a dangerous foul, yellow card.
Red.
If the match is uncontrollable, the referee calls his players and they walk to the dressing room. They don't again quarrel with the police. If you have watched in football matches, they don't allow even people there with guns.
No.
But people manage themselves. So the Electoral Commission must take charge. If they feel that Chagulanyi is moving with the hooligans, let them call Chagulanyi to order. If they feel that policemen are disorganizing the elections, let them report the police where it is supposed to be, the IGP, and they say we don't need these people of yours because they are doing this problem. If the military has submerged them, let them first close. We can suspend election for some time, and the people first organize themselves.
Campaign.
So,
Yeah.
So Bwana Muchunguzi, you please stop using the analogy of football. You may not be aware of how football works. Football is application of the 7 rules of the game.
Thank you, Dr. Ojiambo. Robert, 5 minutes.
I thought I would even add him more of my time.
Are you a better footballer?
No, I'm a registered Arsenal fan. I have an academy here.
Okay.
My brothers played for KCC, Ivan Integ and Uganda Cranes and professional Skoja. So I'm deep into football.
Okay.
And he has ably articulated it from a footballing angle. I think Muchunguzi has been taken to the blackboard. He will use it better next time. But talking about the police, we've had a very fair share of their brutality to the journalists. We produced an annual report called the Press Freedom Index. We've produced so far 14 reports of that kind, and the police has always been the leading perpetrator. So I don't even need to go and search for statistics to know where they stand, and it's mainly been about brutality. Not giving the journalists a chance, beating them when they feel at will, and injustice all the way through. But like colleagues have said, we need the police, certainly, and we need to devise means of empowering them, of actually liberating them. We recently had a discussion, and the police lady came out and said, please advocate for us. We are sleeping in a bad way. We are in a pathetic condition that does not allow us to work. You expect too much from us, but you are not speaking about the other side of our plight. So I think we need to raise our voices in that direction. And also, when the president said there was...
Are they putting their frustration on people?
Certainly, because there is a ripple effect on how you are.
If you're hungry,
yes,
if
certainly.
you are living
and
in
you see
under
people,
a leaking roof.
Yeah, you see people walking like they are too satisfied. You think they have even eaten your food.
But one time, police women were demonstrating for electricity
yes,
at
in
Nakuru,
yes.
and they sent their husbands to cane them.
They caned them.
Your wife?
So the frustration is too much. Before we ask for too much from them.
Years.
But also,
they are protecting the
we think
games.
that they owe their loyalty for political expedience, which needs also to change. They should apply the law not selectively, because that selective application of the law is persecution. The police is seen to persecute certain opposition figures, doesn't augur well with what we are talking about here. And in that regard, when we were in COVID, the president would say a statement like this evening and starts working immediately. We all kept running home and sweating to make sure that we get home before this time. Curfew, You do not drive your car, you walk. Sometimes we would even use our children's these small bicycles to go somewhere, because the president had given an order that you don't drive. So I think we need just to hear his voice, like Bwana Henry said. Where is he in all this? He needs just to make a statement this is wrong, and you see things really changing. I think it is the voice that is missing, and we think that he's mysteriously and suspiciously silent about it. Possibly like he wanted to answer a question whether they benefit from violence or not. I think they do, because if they were not, they would not be meting out that violence. The police would be acting more professionally, and so would the army. The fact that they are not doing so, there is a benefit that comes with it, And I think he was even very unfair to the NUP, saying they benefit to a lot when they beat them, when they terrorize them. I don't think anyone would want to be terrorized in the name of gaining political capital.
So are they saying that their job is to campaign for opposition?
Yeah, that is another question. And I did, but Henry, I haven't seen Mukuba putting down your notes of going to talk to the president about speaking out. He hasn't put it down, so the Secretariat might not put it as a minute. Because he has been putting down a lot of things
You're very good envoy for this group. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Major, over to you. I don't know if you could respond in 5 minutes.
Less.
Okay.
I will do that in less. Your question is whether all these activities or the effect of it to the rule of law.
On the rule of law and public trust, yes.
Public trust, of course, if the state actors don't act in the wishes of the people, you lose the trust. And that is why for us who grew up in NRA, we kept on saying the People's Army, right from its inception. Because when you are with the people, you become the People's Army. And we should think that the police also wants to be the people's police. But at least for a long time, we managed to drive the narrative that NRA was the People's Army.
That was in the past.
Maybe now UPDF could have challenges. But the trust, I agree, that if you keep doing what is not in the wishes of the people, it will lose the trust. But about this concept of rule of law, sometimes I'm very hesitant about it because we seem to have swallowed it from the Americans, and now we think it is right. There could be something better. Rule of law, Judith, is a concept developed by the Americans. Why? Because when the Europeans went to America, they exterminated the indigenous.
The Red Indians.
Red Indians. So America has people from Germany, Italy, France,
assimilated.
UK. Now, these people have no
Uganda.
common customs. So therefore, the only thing to rule them is to hang the law on top of them. Rule of law, rule of law. If you take a country like UK, which is in the highland, it is in the water. Sometimes Russia says we shall sink you up, because Russia still believes this small island, which is an agent of America. So UK is an island. People moved from the mainland to UK and crystallized their civilization to the extent that UK has been a non-democratic country without a written constitution. So you can see that the in-depth of the rule of law in UK is not the rule of law in America. Because for them, they have that. But be as it is, we now do it. Somebody will argue that we are a nation state. We are a nation state because the Cholis are brought together as Banyankole and Bateso and Baganda. So we kind of have a nation state with and not similar customs. And therefore, we resort to rule of law. Be as it is. But we therefore have no option than to subject the American rule of law. But I'm more into law and order. Because law and order means that if you're going to Anjenua, dance, don't break somebody's head. If you're in church praying, pray, don't break the law. If you are in the garden, dig peacefully. And that is the role of police to maintain law and order. And that is also the same argument the police is making, that during campaigning, do we set aside the law? Does the law go in abeyance? For them, they said, no, the law doesn't go in abeyance. Because even if you're campaigning, there are laws, there are set rules, set procedures. Maybe like what Honorable Banyenzaki was saying about the routes, if they think a guideline is coming from the law, then this one who sits there, they shouldn't be twisted into agreeing on a guidelines that is unlawful. The representative of candidates should say, you guys, why are we agreeing on this? Which legal basis do you think we should tie candidates to this? So that, because now what Election Commission is saying is that they seem to think the guidelines is an agreement of all. That we consented to this, why are you turning against it? So it also goes back to them. But otherwise, the rule of law, we all want it, and we cannot say during campaign laws are in abeyance. It must be followed. Just like if you're going to Anjenua, we follow the law. Wherever it is, we must maintain law and order. If that was the case, if that was not the case, whoever would go to Anjenua would shoot people and cut others with knife, and there wouldn't be any dancing anymore, or even in churches. But the gist of the matter is, if state actors don't act in conformity with the wishes of the people, because the state are supposed to enforce the laws made by the people. If you so think that that law is wrong, then it should be amended. But the state is a representation of the people's wishes, and therefore any acting contrary, you lose the trust, and the rule of law will be in challenge, in jeopardy.
All right, thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our discussion on Uganda decides the cost of election violence. Thank you very much to each one of you for your invaluable insights and contribution to this conversation. My name is Judith Atim. I'm your host. And do leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about these discussions. Let's hear from you. And also do join us next week. The Citizens Chat Show returns then, same time. For now, it is bye-bye from all of us.